All right, let's get into it. We talk about climate change on this huge global scale all the time, right? But what does it actually look like for a single city to prepare for what's coming down the pike? Well, today, we're going to look at a real world example Marquette, Michigan. They've put together this incredibly practical plan for a future that for them is already here. And that right there is the whole point. This isn't some far off projection or a maybe in 50 years kind of thing. This quote from the city's own research just nails it. It grounds everything in the now. For the folks living in Marquette, this isn't abstract. It's literally happening as we speak. It's reshaping their winters, their forests, even their iconic Lake Superior shoreline. So, okay, before you can come up with any kind of solution, you've got to know exactly what you're up against, right? So Marquette started by laying out 7 major climate risks. These aren't just guesses. They're based on the hard science of what's already happening or what's almost certainly on the way. Let's break them down. First on the list, their winters are getting, well, wild. It's kind of counterintuitive, right? You'd think a warming planet means less snow. But for Marquette, at least for now, it means more intense lake effect snow, which is then followed by these sudden, weird rainstorms or thaws. What you get is this messy cycle of winter flooding and treacherous ice. And that just puts an incredible strain on their roads and their entire stormwater system. And check this out. The very identity, the whole feel of the northern woods is changing. The trees you think of when you picture the north, the spruce and the fir, they're struggling. And at the same time, hardwoods like oak and maple are creeping north. The entire forest is literally reorganizing itself, one tree at a time. Okay, so for as long as anyone can remember, Lake Superior has had this natural bodyguard in the winter, a massive shield of ice. It just sits there and absorbs the pounding from huge winter storms. But as the winters get warmer, that ice shield is shrinking. It's not as reliable. And that leaves the shoreline totally exposed to the full raw power of those winter waves, which is just speeding up erosion like crazy. And the problems don't just stop right at the shoreline. Remember those wild winter rains we mentioned? Well, after those storms, all that runoff, full of nutrients and warmer water, just pours into the lake. This creates these little warm hotspots near the coast, which is really bad news for cold water fish. It can even spark nasty algal blooms, and that's a threat to, well, everything, from the ecosystem to just being able to enjoy the lake. Now this is a really important one. These things don't happen one at a time in a neat little line. No, they stack up, they compound. Just imagine it. A huge rainstorm hits, but the ground is still frozen solid. So that rain causes a sudden thaw and flash flooding. At the exact same time, it's hammering that already eroding shoreline we just talked about. And then, in the middle of all that chaos, the power goes out. That's a compound disaster. And it's the new reality that cities everywhere are having to plan for. Here's a tricky one. Because Marquette has cooler summers and, of course, all that fresh water, some people are starting to see it as a climate haven, a place to escape to. But that popularity, well, it's a double-edged sword. If a bunch of new people move in and the growth isn't managed well, you could end up with new houses being built in the exact same floodplains and wetlands that the city desperately needs to protect itself. It's a real paradox. So we get to the final risk, and here's the twist. It's also the key to the whole solution. The city's greatest asset is what they call the living mosaic. It's this whole connected network of forests, wetlands, and dunes. And this isn't just pretty scenery, okay? It's natural infrastructure. It soaks up floodwater, it acts as a buffer against waves, it keeps neighborhoods cool. And it does it all way better and way cheaper than just pouring more concrete. So protecting this, it's everything. Okay, so now we've got a clear picture of those 7 big risks. The question is, what do you do about it? Well, the city basically put together the ultimate adaptation wish list, a really comprehensive list of everything they could do in a perfect world to get ready. And here's a peek of that list. I mean, it is thorough. You can see they've thought of everything. We're talking bigger ponds to hold all that rain, planting trees that can actually handle the new climate, building living shorelines out of natural plants, even updating their zoning rules to steer new construction to safer ground. On paper, it is the perfect plan. So it seems pretty straightforward, doesn't it? The city knows the risks and they know what needs to be done, so why not just do it all? Well, this is the exact moment where a perfect plan smacks right into the messy, complicated real world. See, every town, every city operates inside its own unique political reality. The folks who wrote this plan have a great term for it, the preference regime. And it's basically the unwritten rulebook of what's actually possible, politically and financially. It's shaped by decades of budgets, public opinion, and local culture. And this is fascinating because it just lays out that reality so clearly for Marquette. On one side, you've got what the city is good at, what people support. Things like updating rules, going after grant money for nature projects, getting volunteers involved. But on the other side, the stuff that's a really tough sell, things like new fees, any policy that feels like it's taking away property rights, or really expensive projects that don't have outside funding. A successful plan doesn't ignore this column. It has to work with it.
So here's the bottom line. A brilliant plan that just sits on a shelf is totally useless, right? The real genius of what Marquette did was to take that enormous perfect world wish list and boil it down into 4 practical, connected pathways. Pathways that actually work with the risks, the needs, and that political reality we just talked about.
And that's it. That's the core of their approach. They took this huge, sprawling, complex problem and distilled it all down to just 4 clear, actionable, and politically possible paths forward. Let's check them out. Pathway A is all about water. But instead of just building a bigger wall at the coast, the idea is to manage the water from the top down, all the way from the ridges inland right down to the lake. And how do they do it? By using the tools they're already good at, protecting wetlands, updating stormwater rules, and, big bonus, this is exactly the kind of stuff that state and federal grant funders love to see. Pathway B brings us back to that living mosaic, the forests and natural spaces. And the goal here isn't to try and stop the forest from changing, because that's impossible. Instead, it's about guiding the transition. That means planting trees that are going to be happy in a warmer climate and protecting these cool little pockets, or refugia, where the classic northern species can hang on. It's about getting ahead of the problem, not just reacting to it. Pathway C goes right at that climate migration risk we talked about. The big idea is simple. Let the city grow, but don't let it grow into dangerous places. And it does this using those politically friendly tools like zoning changes and incentives to nudge development away from eroding bluffs or flood-prone areas. I love this phrase they use. It's all about avoiding climate havens self-sabotage. And last but not least, Pathway D. This one is all about getting ready for those compound disasters when everything goes wrong at once. This is the nuts and bolts of preparedness. We're talking about setting up resilience hubs in neighborhoods, places with backup power and supplies. And it's about making sure every single city department is planning for these multi-hazard nightmares. It's really the human safety net that holds all the other plans together. So, when you step back and look at the whole thing, what does this path to resilience really look like? Well, it's pretty clear it's not about finding one single magical silver bullet project. It's about something way smarter and way more connected. And really, this is what you need to take away from all this. Marquette's recipe for success boils down to these 4 things. 1. They were brutally honest about the risks. 2. They recognized that nature itself is their best and cheapest infrastructure. 3. They built a plan that could actually survive the real world of politics and budgets. And 4. They understood that none of these problems exist in a vacuum. It's all connected. Which brings us to the big question at the end of all this. How does a city get ready for the climate that's coming while also holding on to the very things that make people love living there? What Marquette's doing isn't just a plan for them, it's a blueprint. It's a story about facing the future head-on, but doing it in a way that's practical, that's achievable, and that protects the soul of the community. And that's a lesson I think we can all learn from.